So I want you to picture something for a second. It is 1978 in the UK.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Peak punk rock.
Exactly. The punk scene is just absolutely exploding. It's loud, it's angry, and, the whole goal is to make as much noise as humanly possible, right? Just
Yeah.
to disrupt the status quo.
Right. Break everything.
Yeah. So what if I told you that the most radical, the most boundary-pushing band of that entire era barely used distortion at all?
Mm.
Like, what if the absolute most rebellious thing you could do in a world that is just obsessed with noise was to play quietly?
It's a massive conceptual shift. We are so conditioned to think that revolution, it has to be deafening to be effective.
Yeah, exactly. And today we're doing a deep dive into the legacy of a musical project called the Durutti Column.
A fascinating group.
Truly. We're unpacking how their philosophy, this really core idea of, well, subtraction, completely redefined the electric guitar. And honestly, basically laid the groundwork for decades of ambient and post-rock music. Okay, let's unpack this. Because applying the concept of less is more to a post-punk landscape
Hmm.
completely flips how we think about making an impact.
It really does. And honestly, for anyone listening right now, I feel like this is a deeply relevant mindset. I mean, we live in an absolute avalanche of information.
Paul, tell me about it.
Right.
Like-
Every screen, every single feed is just screaming for your attention. Looking at how an artist created this massive lasting legacy through intentional subtraction,
Yeah.
it proves you don't actually need to be the loudest person in the room to be heard.
No, you really don't. And to really get why this quiet revolution mattered, we have to talk about where it happened.
The context is everything.
It is. So late 70s Manchester, it is a post-industrial city, and it's in serious decline. You've got gray skies, abandoned factories, and it is churning out the most intense, abrasive music on the planet.
Yeah, this is the birthplace of factory records.
Right, and factory records, they were a breed of their own.
Oh, completely. Factory records was less of a traditional business and more of like an avant-garde art experiment run by maniacs,
Yeah.
spearheaded by Tony Wilson. I mean, they were the home to Joy Division and eventually New Order. But they treated everything, the music, the flyer for a gig, a random poster on a wall, as a comprehensive piece of high art.
Everything mattered.
Everything. The physical object had to make a statement just as loudly as the band did.
Which, and this is so great, sets up one of the most brilliant pieces of music trivia I've ever heard.
I know exactly what you're going to say.
That's so good. So in 1980, the Durutti Column releases their debut album, The Return of the Durutti Column. And the packaging, well, actually, you know what? Tell them what Factory Records did here.
Okay, so they packaged the vinyl in a jacket that was made entirely out of heavy-duty, industrial-grade sandpaper.
Wait, literally, just like pure sandpaper.
Pure sandpaper.
That is wild.
And, it wasn't just some edgy aesthetic choice to make it feel rough in your hands. It was a functional, essentially destructive piece of art.
Destructive.
Yeah. So the Situationist movement heavily influenced factory records. It's this whole idea of disrupting the everyday consumer experience.
Okay.
If you bought this Durutti Column record, right, and you took it home, and you slid it onto your shelf right between your pristine Beatles and Pink Floyd albums.
Oh, no.
Yes. Every time you pulled it out, the sandpaper would physically scratch and destroy the record sitting next to it.
Wow.
It was a critique of the music industry itself, like a literal weapon disguised as a product.
It's the ultimate punk rock Trojan horse. You buy this thing, it's hostile, it's destructive, it literally ruins your collection.
Yep.
But okay, here's the thing. If the packaging is meant to destroy other records, I would expect the music hiding inside to just absolutely destroy my eardrums. Why would a punk label wrap something delicate in a weapon?
What's fascinating here is that tension is the entire point. Yeah, you pull the vinyl out of this aggressively abrasive sleeve, you drop the needle, and you are hit with music that is incredibly fragile, introspective, and just calm.
Wow.
It perfectly captured the paradox of Manchester at that time. You have this harsh, gritty, decaying urban exterior, the sandpaper, and underneath it, you have this highly vulnerable, protected, inner emotional landscape. Factory records just love that bait and switch.
I love that. Let's actually talk about the inner landscape, though, because the sound coming off that record wasn't just like quiet rock music.
No, not at all.
It sounded like an entirely different species of music. And that really all comes down to their guitarist and the central figure of the project, Vini Reilly.
Oh, Vini Reilly. He is a total anomaly.
Yeah.
I mean, in 1980, guitarists were obsessed with playing faster, playing harder, or just, drowning their amps in distortion to get that massive, fuzzy post-punk tone.
Right, the wall of sound.
Exactly.
Yeah,
But Reilly went the complete opposite direction.
yeah.
He pulls from classical guitar, he pulls from jazz, from Spanish flamenco.
Which is pretty unusual for a guy at a punk label.
Very. And his biggest innovation was abandoning almost all traditional rock structures. So no power chords, no blues riffs, zero self-indulgent guitar solos.
Okay, hold on. Let me play the skeptic for a second.
Sure, go for it.
If I'm a rock purist in 1980 and I see a guy on stage who isn't even playing chords, who's just, plucking a few single notes and letting an electronic echo machine do all the heavy lifting, I'm probably calling that lazy.
Oh, people definitely did.
Right. How is a guy noodling with pedals actually pushing a song forward without a drummer laying down a beat?
That is the exact criticism traditionalists threw at him.
Mm-hmm.
But it completely misses the sheer technical difficulty of what he's actually doing.
Okay.
Reilly wasn't using a delay pedal to just add a cool, spacey wash over a standard song. He was using the pedal as a structural instrument.
Like a second musician.
Exactly, like a second musician.
Wait, how does that actually work in practice? Like mechanically speaking?
Well, think about how an analog delay pedal functions. You play a note, and the machine repeats it back to you at a specific time interval that you set.
Right, like an echo.
Exactly.
Hmm.
But what Reilly did was set those repeat rates slightly off the tempo of his actual physical playing.
Oh, interesting.
So when he plucked a single string, the initial note would ring out, and before it faded, the machine would throw a delayed copy of that note back into the room.
Okay, I'm with you.
Then he'd pluck a second note, which would overlap with the echo of the first note.
Oh, I see. So the echoes are constantly cascading over each other.
Yes, it's a psychoacoustic trick. Because the overlapping sound waves are falling slightly out of sync, the human brain tries to organize the chaos.
Our brains hate chaos.
Right. So your brain starts hearing rhythms and patterns in the overlapping echoes that aren't actually being played by his fingers.
Wow.
It creates a lattice of sound. He wasn't playing a linear melody, he was filling a three-dimensional space with vibrations. By not filling the track with a bass player and a drummer, he was doing something much, much harder.
Which is
If we could take this to the bigger picture, he was sculpting time.
sculpting time. I love that visual. That's beautiful. But isn't there a fine line between sculpting time and just making boring elevator music?
It's a risk, for sure.
Because if there's no rhythm section, what keeps it from just floating away into absolutely nothing?
Intent and tension.
Intent and tension.
Yeah, when you leave that much empty space in a track, there is nowhere to hide. Every single note you play has to matter.
Because everyone can hear it.
Exactly. If you play one note too many, the delicate architecture of those overlapping echoes collapses into a muddy mess. If you play one too few, the rhythm just falls apart.
So it's like a tightrope walk?
It requires terrifying restraint.
Mm-hmm.
And by using the studio and the effects to sculpt space rather than just document a live performance, Reilly basically wrote the blueprint for modern ambient and post-rock music.
Okay, let's put that blueprint under the microscope because there's one specific track from that 1980 debut album that perfectly illustrates everything we're talking about right now.
Oh, yeah.
It's called Sketch for Summer.
A total masterpiece of subtraction.
It really is, and it's incredibly short. Like, it's barely 2.5 minutes long.
Barely.
There's no big sweeping development, there's no bridge, there's no chorus. And going back to my skeptical question about how a song moves forward without a drummer sketch for summer, solves it using that exact delay technique you just described.
Right, because there's no traditional percussion keeping time at all.
None. Instead, you hear these delayed grains of guitar sound. And because the echoes are falling slightly out of step with each other, they generate a pseudo-rhythm.
A pseudo-rhythm, yes.
It feels like a pulse. But instead of marching forward aggressively like a standard rock track, the rhythm feels like it's breathing. It diffuses outward, like ripples in a pond rather than a train going down a track.
That's a great way to put it. And then consider the melody itself.
Yes.
It's profoundly ambiguous.
Yes. Here's where it gets really interesting to me. The melody is just so elusive.
It is.
Like when you're actively listening to Sketch for Summer, it feels deeply present, very emotional. But the second the song ends, try to hum the melody back.
You can't do it.
It's almost impossible. It's exactly like trying to remember a dream you just woke up from.
Oh, that's a perfect analogy.
Right. You remember the texture of the dream perfectly. You remember the feeling it left in your chest. But when you try to articulate the exact details, the specifics just slip right through your fingers.
That dream analogy captures it perfectly. And, it is no accident that the track is titled Sketch for Summer.
Sketch.
Right. Not a painting, not a photograph.
Just a sketch.
Right, because a sketch is kind of...
A sketch fundamentally implies something unfinished. The borders aren't fully shaded in. The song doesn't force a high-definition specific memory of summer onto you. It leaves deliberate blank spaces.
It's inviting you in.
Exactly. It invites you, the listener, to project your own personal nostalgia into the gaps between the notes.
So it's demanding collaboration from the audience in a way. You have to bring your own emotional baggage to the song. You absolutely do. And let's contrast that with what Joy Division, who were their label mates, remember, were doing at that exact same time.
Oh, totally different vibe.
Completely. Joy Division's music is incredible, but it forces an emotion onto you. The heavy, claustrophobic beats, Ian Curtis's vocals, they trap you inside their profound internal despair.
Yeah, you are experiencing their pain.
Exactly, their pain.
Yeah.
But Sketch for Summer does the exact opposite. It dilutes emotion. It spreads it out. It creates an empty, sunlit room where multiple contradictory feelings can exist simultaneously, depending entirely on who's listening.
Which feels very closely tied to what Brian Eno was doing, because he was basically defining the term ambient music right around this era.
He was, but there's a crucial distinction here.
Okay, what is it?
Eno defined his brand of ambient music as something that could be completely ignored.
Oh, right, like furniture.
Yeah, it was designed to just tint the atmosphere of a room, like the acoustic equivalent of wallpaper.
Gotcha.
But the Durutti Column sits in this really fascinating middle ground. Sketch for Summer isn't pure background music, but it doesn't aggressively grab you by the collar either.
It gives you a choice.
Yes, if you want it to just wash over you while you read a book, it works perfectly. But if you put on headphones and actively pay attention to those out-of-sync delays, it reveals itself as a deeply engaging, almost architectural listening experience.
It respects your boundaries. It lets you decide the terms of the interaction.
Precisely.
I love that. So they released this mind-bending Sandpaper album in 1980, but they didn't just drop a cool art project and then vanish.
Oh, definitely not.
This core philosophy of subtraction somehow allowed them to survive and evolve for decades, totally ignoring the traditional rules of the pop music machine.
It's true. Their longevity defies almost every conventional logic in the music industry.
Let's trace how that evolved, because in 1981, they released an album called LC, where you start hearing a little bit more structure.
Right.
And then by 1983, on another setting, they're bringing in classical elements, horns, more distinct rhythms. And then by the late 80s, around 1986 or so, they start folding in electronic sequences and synthesizers.
Yeah, the technology caught up with them.
And they just kept going. I mean, they were incredibly prolific through the 90s and well into the 2000s.
But here is the critical thread tying all of those eras together.
Okay.
Whether they were adding sweeping classical strings or digital drum machines, they never abandoned the philosophy of subtraction.
They kept the space.
They kept the space.
Yeah.
The music never got cluttered. They never lost the empty space.
And they did this while entirely lacking the two ingredients you normally absolutely need to survive in the music business:
Which are?
a charismatic lead vocalist and catchy pop hooks.
Very true.
I mean, from a commercial standpoint, they were shooting themselves in the foot right out of the gate. They were never going to be competing with Madonna or Prince on the Billboard chart.
No, never.
But paradoxically, skipping those trendy chart-topping elements is exactly what gave them their longevity.
It makes perfect sense when you think about it. When you refuse to chase a trend, you become immune to going out of style.
That is so true. I mean, think about it. If you listen to a random synth pop song from 1986, you usually know within 3 seconds that it was made in 1986.
Oh, absolutely.
You hear that specific gated snare drum. You hear that exact Yamaha DX7 synth patch that literally everyone was using, and the song is instantly time-stamped.
Yep, it's trapped in its era.
Right. But because the Durutti Column didn't rely on those crutches, their music is completely unstuck from time. You put on Sketch for Summer today, 4.5 decades later, and it sounds as mysterious and fresh as the day Vini Reilly recorded it.
It creates its own isolated ecosystem. And, that's really the grand takeaway here. The Durutti Column wasn't just a post-punk band playing some weird subgenre. By stripping away all the traditional markers of rock and pop, they carved out a space entirely outside a genre.
Yeah, they really did.
You really can't compare them to contemporaries like the Smiths or the Cure. It's just a completely different language.
So what does this all mean for the broader musical landscape? Because they weren't huge commercial stars, obviously, but their fingerprints feel like they're everywhere now.
They absolutely are everywhere. You can hear their echoes literally and figuratively
Yeah.
in so much of what we listen to today.
Like where?
Well, the textures of modern lo-fi hip-hop beats, for one,
Oh, sure.
or the spatial awareness you hear in complex electronica, even the sprawling cinematic landscapes of modern post-rock, it all owes a huge debt to Vini Reilly.
Wow.
They didn't just create a cool sound you could copy by buying the right guitar pedal. They offered a completely new methodology for composing. They proved that creating a massive resonant atmosphere doesn't require a wall of sound.
It redefines what we consider powerful music.
It does. This raises an important question about what strength in art actually looks like.
What do you mean?
Well, we're so conditioned to equate volume with power.
Yeah.
A heavy bass drop, a screaming vocal, a massive guitar riff. The Durutti Column proved that true strength isn't measured in decibels.
Right.
It's measured in lasting resonance. It's about building a structure with enough internal space
Yeah.
that it can hold the listener's imagination for decades.
Building a structure strong enough to hold the listener's imagination. That
Yep.
perfectly encapsulates it.
Thank you.
So just to recap the journey we just took, we started in the gray post-industrial landscape of 1970s Manchester. We explored how factory records packaged a delicate, vulnerable album inside a literal weapon made of sandpaper to critique the music industry.
Still my favorite part.
It's so good. We broke down how Vini Reilly took a simple delay pedal and used it not as a gimmick, but to psychoacoustically sculpt time, creating emotional blank canvases like Sketch for Summer.
Yep.
And we saw how an uncompromising commitment to subtraction untethered their music from time entirely, allowing it to exist permanently outside of trends and genres.
It is honestly a masterclass in the sheer power of restraint. And, this concept stretches way beyond just music.
How so?
Well, as we wrap up, I want to leave everyone with something to chew on regarding this idea of timelessness through subtraction. Think about the media ecosystem we're all swimming in today.
Oh man, it is exhausting. We are living in the era of algorithmic feeds. TikTok, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts.
Exactly. Every single piece of content you see is hyper-engineered to be as loud, fast, and visually dense as possible.
Right, jump cuts every 2 seconds.
Huge subtitles, blaring sound effects. It's all designed to violently grab your attention in the first 3 seconds before you scroll past.
It's the modern equivalent of the loudest punk bands just trying to drown everyone else out.
Right. So if the Durutti Column achieved artistic immortality in the 1980s by doing the exact opposite, by stripping away the noise, embracing silence, and actually demanding patience, what is the equivalent of that today?
Oh, that's a good question.
In a society that is completely addicted to sensory overload, is subtraction the ultimate act of modern rebellion?
That is a profound thought. What does the digital version of that sandpaper record jacket look like right now?
Exactly.
Is it a podcast with literally no intro music, a video with long, uncut, silent shots? It's really fascinating to think about how you disrupt a feed that just expects constant noise.
Whatever it is, I think we are culturally starved for. We desperately need a little empty space.
I couldn't agree more. That thought is definitely going to be bouncing around my head all week. Thank you all so much for joining us on this deep dive. And hey, as a palate cleanser from whatever algorithm you are currently fighting, we highly encourage you to carve out just 2.5 minutes of your day. Find a quiet room, put on some headphones, and listen to Sketch for Summer for yourself. Let the echoes do the work. We'll catch you next time.